chapter 1, what we want to hear versus what we need to hear. And the step that we are on, we talked about 8 steps, choosing to change from the inside out, choosing to change from the inside out. Such an important step, because before we see meaningful change on the outside, we first have to make those changes on the inside. Again, I am reading from the manuscript, What Works When Diets Don't. You can download the book for free at westsidechristianfellowship.org if you want a hard copy. Of course, we have Amazon, things like that. But free ebooks are at the church website, westsidechristianfellowship.org. But let's get started. This is an exciting topic, choosing to change from the inside out. So even though I was younger, I thought I was healthy, but my blood pressure and cholesterol levels were high, and my health was rapidly deteriorating. I was told that I might need to take medication for the rest of my life. I'm sure many of you have been told that as well. And the reason is, and I want to be careful here because we need doctors, we need the medical industry, but we also need, to know how the body works and see the other side of it. Many of them are not trained, there are exceptions, but many of them are not trained to go after what's causing the problem and fix that. What they're taught to do is to prescribe medication that will keep things at bay, in some cases help, like with statin drugs they prescribe, which causes the liver to stop making cholesterol, hoping then to lower your cholesterol level. But we're finding a lot of other things now with cholesterol, the particle size, and cholesterol is actually so important for the body. So that's a whole nother topic. I'll leave it to the professionals for that. Also, type 2 diabetes. If you go to your doctor for type 2 diabetes, more often than not, because your body's insulin resistant, it's the cells aren't open to receiving the insulin, they will actually prescribe insulin. So it's like flooding the system, which for a type 2 diabetic, taking more insulin is not the greatest plan. And then you're on certain medication for the rest of your life. Is why I think metformin is a medication for that as well. We have to be careful with medication. I'm not against it, but we don't want to rely on that, especially for the rest of our life. So I was told that. And as a result, I think this was in my early 20s, I was denied life insurance because I was too overweight. I think it was 270 pounds. But at that time, I was lifting a lot of heavy weights. And I was told to go on a strict diet. And I was shocked. I knew that if I didn't change my life would change me. You'd think I would learn from that lesson, but I didn't. It took many, many years. Actually, probably, I ate pretty healthy and kind of took care of myself. But it took probably 6 or 7 more years before I finally made a greater commitment. Let's see here. I immediately drove to a bookstore and I purchased a diet book. Couple different diet books, convinced that it would help. And I think back then, it's funny if you're watching on the podcast, I think back then it was, I don't even remember, Suzanne Summers was really popular. I remember that. Something called the Atkins diet, which is actually no different than keto. Eat right for your blood type. And each book has, good principles, interesting information. But, and like I said earlier, a specific diet, okay, I'm going to do this for 30 days, I'm going to do this for 60 days, is not going to lead to long-term results. For example, if you do a ketogenic diet, I guess I could explain that later. In a nutshell, what you're doing is you're eating foods, mainly just fat and protein, not a lot of carbohydrates. What happens is your body begins to burn the stored carbohydrates, and then you have no more carbohydrates. And the thought is you'll go back into fat burning. Because your body needs the fat for fuel. So the diet is centered around that. But long term, it's tough. If you use it for a time period, it might be good. But then you got to make sure you have things in place: healthy diet, healthy lifestyle, to keep the results going. And then, of course, now it wasn't very popular back then. It is really right now. They call it the lion diet or the carnivore diet, where it's just meat only. Look at what's his name, Jordan Peterson, and his daughter's family have great results. So, the reason they have great results, and I might be repeating myself sometimes, but it's because it's relevant, is when you start to remove all the processed food, partially hydrogenated oils, seed oils, and you get rid of some of the inflammatory causing, oats or wheat and the gluten, and you start to get rid of all that. You just eat meat. I mean, God gave us meat, and it says in Genesis chapter 7 or so, don't quote me on that we can, we can eat meat. Abram, I think in chapter 18 of Genesis, he prepared a meal for some angels and actually killed a goat, and and brought out the meat and dairy. And so we can eat that. So yeah, if you can get some good clean meat and dairy, you're probably going to be doing better than the standard American diet. So that's why a lot of people see huge results on carnivore, is they get rid of all the junk. Is that the ideal approach going forward? Probably not. But of course, like in Peterson's case, they would probably need to start introducing some foods. Okay, does these organic black beans, does it give me an inflammatory response? And maybe, somebody out there is, that's the best diet for them. And let's say they have to eat that way the rest of their life to keep depression at bay and to get rid of a lot of these physical ailments. Then, I would probably do that. That would outweigh the desire to feel better, would outweigh the possibility of causing, issues later in life, because all of us are going to have issues no matter what diet you do. So I drove to the bookstore and read the diet and book, and it definitely worked temporarily. And within a few months, though, I gained back all the weight that I'd lost, and I continued to try different diets for several more years. All of them failed miserably. As a result, I became angry and frustrated. Many of the diets presented what I wanted to hear and not what I needed to hear to lose weight and keep it off. It shouldn't be about selling products, pills, and false promises. The truth is that we are losing the war against obesity, and even in our children. And unless we change the way we approach weight loss, it will not improve. Most offer menu plans or diet aids, but the problem goes much deeper and requires more than a quick fix. We need a solution, not a sales pitch. So, as I said earlier, and maybe in case you didn't catch that, but it can't be a diet. And I'm here to speak the truth in love. I mean, it's really easy to say, oh, don't worry about what you eat. You can kind of eat whatever you want as long as you do our exercise program, as long as you wear this belt, as long as you take this pill, as long as you take this medication. And the truth is, in our culture with food everywhere and the addiction from caffeine to sugar and food and more food, I mean, it's for most of us, we like food and we will eat too much food. And so that's, it's been a struggle for all of my life, is eating. So the problem is we have too much food. We eat too much food, and we're sedentary. The new smoking is sitting. What I'm doing right now is considered the new smoking. How bad it is for the body. And we'll get into that later, I'm sure. But the key is, this is a lifestyle change. I'm changing my lifestyle. Sure, you might, blow it now and then, or you might have a cupcake at your kid's party. But from your pantry to your refrigerator, you have to weigh on the scale. Okay, how important is not longevity to me, but productivity, feeling better. I mean, I know, man, when people are my age, they're at the doctor all the time. They're on 3 different medications. They're having another surgery. I mean, it's just so debilitating, and time off of work and not the cost. I don't know how our country handles the current, strain on the healthcare system, and it's only going to get worse. So the solution is a long-term focus, perseverance, commitment, eating God-given foods in moderation. And I am, I don't mind eating carbohydrates, but I'm all for being very careful. I don't mind a half of a yam, but a bag of chips and potatoes and white rice that really shoots up the glycemic index. The only bread I eat personally is Ezekiel bread. When I do eat bread, mix it with some eggs and some French toast and a little bit of Manuka honey, maybe 300 calories in that. It's not, and then I have to, just, my body wants more. Later on, I want some chocolate. Later on, I want some peanut butter. And so just the fact of drinking water, having some tea, saying no. See, this isn't what people want to hear. They want to hear the quick fix. It sells better. But I'm just telling you the truth. You have to set your feet deep into the ground and say, I'm going to hold my position. And you might not see results. I mean, I remember even now, I don't know if I'll share much of this, but even now I feel like convicted. Months ago, this is 2024, back in January, February, it's about 220 pounds. At 6'2", and that's, it's okay. People are like, oh yeah, you look fine. I don't care about how I look necessarily, but I could tell my joints, my back, my energy, my inflammation, especially as you get older. So my goal now is, I'm 205 now, just in about 3 or 4 months. And my goal is to even just get lower, but it's a battle. I mean, sometimes you get on the scale and, you gained a pound. So you don't go buy up the scale, because if you eat some foods rich in sodium, some beef jerky and high sodium foods, sodium is with water, it's kind of like a cell volumizer. The sodium it's water retention. So the water holds on with the sodium. And so you can easily, that's why the scales, you can easily gain even fasting. I remember I was water fasting and I gained a pound. It's because I took some electrolytes that day, earlier that day, and drank a lot of water. And I mean, a gallon of water is probably, 7 pounds? So you can easily retain a pound. So you can't get set on the scale. I do maybe the scale, once every 10 days, because you want to keep, in my opinion, you want to kind of monitor things, but it depends on what you're going to do. Because I don't think I'm going to follow, let's say, this approach where it's, in other words, eat a pound or two of vegetables a day, as many vegetables as you want, all kinds of vegetables. That just gets hard. I want some of the French toast I mentioned, or I want a little bit of ancestral ground beef, which is mixed with some of the organ meat, a little bit, and some avocado and so maybe some other things. And so, but if you're exchanging high calories with low nutrient density food, you do have to switch that. And that's the point. You're not going to gain weight on a huge salad with some black beans and a slice of avocado and some homemade dressing. It just doesn't happen. So that's the solution is, okay, this is going to be a long-term, this is my life. I want to take care of myself. I want to be a good steward. So I just get dieting out of my mind. I don't even think about dieting. But I will go on a 2-week, or like they call it the Daniel fast. I really call it the Daniel healthy eating program. Look at how much better they looked after 13 days. Probably, that was probably more like if you follow Joel Furman, Dr. Joel Furman. That's what he approaches. Esselstyn, McDougall, all those plants over forks. I think that's what it's called. And all those guys, that's what they promote. Then you have another side that promotes complete opposite. And the reason it's confusing is I think I already went into that. But biblically speaking, meat and dairy are in the Bible, and vegetables. We're created to eat vegetables and fruit and things. But let's say I diagnosis. They said, hey, Shane, you do have stage 3 cancer or whatever. I'm going whole plant-based. I think that is much better. I think there's a lot more healing properties in the plant foods. You look into meat and the high protein and the increase of mTOR, which is mammalian target of rapamycin, and mTOR pathways and IGF-1, insulin-like growth factor 1. Those things can grow. They're good for growth and healthy cells, but they can also grow cancer. So there's a lot of studies out there still about, or studies on both sides of this argument about what diet is best. Even water fasting would probably be ideal. But anyway, let's get back to it. Weight loss is not as difficult as we make it. It becomes more difficult when we waste time on pills and products and potions that do not work. Permanent weight loss and maximum health can only be achieved when the correct information, what we're providing in this book, is applied to everyday living, and it becomes a lifestyle. That's the key. So, those who say, you know what, I don't want to live like that. I want my pantry to have Captain Crunch and fishy crackers, and I'm going to blow it on weekends and holidays and in between. I'm still going to go to my favorite fast food places. Well, you've made that choice. I mean, that's just know, though, that it's going to be harder as you get older. Life's going to become more difficult, more challenging. You're probably going to live with a lot of pain of regret because you gave up the pain of discipline here. And so you might want to think these things through, take it to the Lord in prayer. Again, we just went through a couple weeks ago. I promised my son Chick-fil-A if he did some chores, and I got him some things, and I ordered just a few little probably shouldn't have. All right. I mean, the ingredients, they got tons of chemicals. I won't even get into that. I know it's a Christian company, but so, In-N-Out Burger, but what they use, it's not good stuff. Just telling you the truth. So moderation, and I had a few of those, tasted pretty good, but that's been weeks ago. And since then been doing really good. And for me, it's about stewarding this gift of health that God has given me, this body. And so I don't want to get so extreme, so carried away, but you also don't want to just, become a gluttonous. Is gluttonous, right? You don't want to become, gluttonous, or let gluttony focus take over your life either. You want to really, I would say, get healthy. I mean, I think that's a biblical approach for sure. And you've been given the incredible ability to change your life. It simply begins with a decision. Decide today that you're going to take control and change your life. Now, the problem also is that people look at the magnitude, and it is hard. Let's say you've got to lose 100 pounds. I mean, wow, where do I even start? This is frustrating. But fortunately, the more you weigh, the quicker it comes off, at least initially. And we could get into that later. But I would say, what I tell people is, okay, we're in such and such. Where do you want to be? Do you know you can be in the best shape you've ever been in of your life this time next year? That's it. And during the process, you're going to start feeling a lot better than you do now. So you're working towards this goal. You're feeling better. You're eating better. So, serotonin is actually creating the gut bacteria microbiome, and you're feeling better. The weight's coming off. Okay, you blew it one day, big deal. You get back on track and you're going good for a couple weeks. And man, I haven't lost any weight, but okay, what's going on inside? It's just maybe you need to increase intensity. Maybe you need to change, maybe incorporate intermittent fasting, or maybe do a 36-hour fast, or maybe OMAD for a season, 1 meal a day, Daniel fast, take it to the Lord. There's so many different options, but you're going in a forward direction, even though there's setbacks, and you're going towards your goal. You feel better. Mentally and physically and spiritually, and you're working towards to hit that goal. So let's say you only have to lose 50 pounds. Okay, set a goal for 6 months from now, or 7 months, and don't, a realistic goal. You can depends on how hardcore you want to get to. If I really wanted to drop weight right now, I could do, a minimum. I think the minimum amount of calories to maintain muscle is right around 800 calories a day with sufficient amount of protein. And you could really, you could actually, it's kind of like a fasting mimicking diet. You could go into ketosis. It would take a little bit of time, and then you could stay satisfied on 800 calories a day. And then you're dropping, you're probably dropping, 3 pounds, 4 pounds a week. But you have to be able to sustain that when you stop, so that's another thing to think about. So next section, immediate gratification. When with each passing year comes more technically brilliant and unlimited information concerning health and fitness, yet obesity is still increasing. Despite the popularity of health and fitness programs, few seem to successfully address our national problem, and it's because everything I just said. We're so focused on the short term. And let's talk about that for a minute. What's popular right now? At least right now, Ozempic. And I remember back when it was Fen. The reason I think it had ephedrine in it, and yeah, you're not hungry, you're like on speed. And so Ozempic is a glucagon-like peptide. I think it's called GLP-1 for that very reason. And glucagon is the opposite of insulin. So remember, we talked about insulin is the fat storage hormone. Technically, it has a lot of other functions. And glucagon really decreases hunger. So yeah, if you increase that with this peptides are strands of amino acids, usually a smaller strand, and they go to specific needs. And so this glucagon, hey, I'm not hungry. And so if you're not hungry, you're not eating. Now, why do a lot of the people they seem to lose some fat from their face. And so they look kind of, pale, or their face is really thin. And they have to actually stay on that probably for the rest of their life. And you can just research the side effects. There are quite a few side effects. And we never know, when we're messing with creation. Testosterone therapy, hormone replacement therapy, you just want to take it to the Lord and see what he recommends. Maybe somebody tries that for 6 months. Okay, and they get down, or a year. But you have to remember, when you stop that, and now the glucagon that was increasing is now no longer increasing, you could find yourself just make sure you're prepared for the increased hunger. Have a good plan in place, and just make sure you're prayed up. But I found that most people want the fastest way to lose weight, don't we? But the fastest is not generally the best way, and I can tell you that from experience. Especially when you lose weight fast. Let's say you're water fasting. Dr. Peter Attia talked about this too. One of the reasons he doesn't fast as much, and I can definitely relate, is something called gluconeogenesis happens when your muscle will be broken down for fuel. There's just no way around it. Buchenheimer, I don't remember their full name, but they're in Germany. They have people on around 250 calories, mainly juice. And they've got studies, though, where muscle is actually retained. But I don't know how thorough it was with DEXA scans. I think it was a 10-day fast. And so that was kind of encouraging. But you will lose a little bit of muscle when fasting. So anyway, when you go fast, especially fasting, and if you're fasting and if you're exercising, I remember reading a book. He water fasted for 28 days and lost 44 pounds. And he was excited about that. And I'm like, oh boy, that's a lot of muscle too. You lost a lot of muscle because he was very active. And so just being strategic. My fasting book you can download for free. Feasting and Fasting, What Works When Diets, and what no, that's what the other book I'm doing. Feasting and Fasting, What Works, What Doesn't, and Why. And again, free download at our church website, Westside Christian Fellowship, and you can go into a lot more detail about that. So what happens when we cut corners, the results are short-lived. And in many cases, quick weight loss means starvation and the use of stimulants, and neither produces permanent weight loss. Additionally, there are serious health risk involved sometimes. I'm a proponent for fasting, though. I just think we need to be careful and realize that the fastest way is not the best way, especially when it comes to retaining muscle and things like that. But, you could throw in seasons of fasting for sure. The process of change requires patience. Remember these points right here. The process of change requires, I need patience, consistency, and perseverance, and obedience in doing what is right. Patience, consistency, obedience, perseverance, and those are the results that pay off. Why? Because those are biblical principles. So all these guys on Instagram with these ads, get chiseled and lose 30 pounds, and all you have to do is it's not realistic. Unfortunately, we live in an age when immediate gratification has taken the precedence over delayed gratification. We are told that weight loss can be quick and easy. As a result, we waste time and money on fitness products that promise the world but fail to deliver worthwhile results. Think of all the home equipment, billions of dollars that are sitting in our garage or living room, and they're serving more as a something to hold our clothes than really using it. So if you're going to get home equipment, make sure you're going to use it. I have a bike that the value has been paid 10 times over. Try to use it a lot especially when the weather's not good. And then some things at home in the garage, and it's really productive for me. And perhaps you've experienced this before. There's nothing more frustrating than spending money on weight loss products that do not work. A pill might help you lose weight initially because it's an appetite suppressant, but does it keep it off? No. So see, what you're doing is caffeine is an appetite suppressant, and that's why people aren't too hungry when they take it. But then later in the day, why are they craving chocolate? Why are they craving all these sweets? Because it didn't really fix the long-term problem. Even caffeine, what it does is it blocks something called adenosine. Adenosine, as it increases throughout the day, we become sleepier. And then the caffeine, I'm okay with if you have moderation and in the morning or something, but it really prohibits deep sleep. And okay, great, I had some caffeine. It's a central nervous stimulant. It curbed my appetite. I'm not really hungry. Okay, give it a few hours, because it's almost like holding back a dam. When that dam breaks, you're going to be hungry. We desperately believe these things, and so we buy into all the propaganda. The majority of the diet advertisers out there thrive on the principle that people will purchase products based on emotional responses and urgency. As a result, many have been largely conditioned to believe that they can do the least amount of work possible in the shortest amount of time where weight loss is concerned. That's not true. You have to be strategic. For example, a couple weeks ago, I parked way out in the parking lot, and I walked all the way to Sprouts. Then I went to Best Buy, and I walked a quarter mile over to Lowe's. I looked at my watch, and I got about 1.5 miles in, versus trying to find the closest parking spot, get right in the store, come right out, and just sit and go home and sit and watch. You've got to be strategic. Or at the mall, I'll park all the way to the end, get at least a good mile in. And walking is biblical. How many miles do you think Jesus walked? I don't know. They estimated, I don't remember exactly, but I think it was 22,000 miles in the course of his ministry. Don't quote me on that, but it was something like where I got a calculator out, and I'm like, yeah, that could possibly work. And remember, the walking is burning the energy. So as I'm sitting, I'm still burning energy, because we have a basal metabolic rate, something where we're burning energy and NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis. So you're always burning energy, always. But sitting down, let's say, I don't know the exact calories, 50 calories sitting down versus going on a walk for an hour. I mean, you're talking 5 times that, depending on the, of course, how much you weigh and the speed at which you walk, and is there incline, things like that. So remember this: lose weight quick is a great marketing slogan, but it's not realistic. An important part of change is changing the way you view weight loss. Set your mind on a slow, consistent pace, and know, here's why it doesn't matter too much to me when I'm not losing the weight. What's happening on inside of me? I came across a YouTube video, and it was a cadaver, and they were cutting it, and it was kind of disgusting, but they're showing the layers of visceral fat. You couldn't even see his heart. It was all covered in fat, and just the intestines. So the fat was over everything. That's visceral fat. That's not actually good fat. So, okay, I'm not losing weight, but the inside of my body is changing. And as I keep moving forward, I'm going to see some incredible results. It took time to put it on. It takes time to get it off. So an important part of change is changing the way you view the weight loss process. Set your mind on a slow, consistent pace that will change your habits rather than a quick fix. The pursuit of immediate gratification as it relates to weight loss rarely ever results in success. I'm going to say that again. This is so important. Set your mind on a slow, consistent pace. See, that way, okay, slow, consistent versus something quick. I'm not seeing the results quick enough. This isn't working. Forget it. I'm quitting. I'm giving up. That doesn't work. You have to set your sights on the slow process. And now I'm creating habits. So when I get up in the morning, how I eat, exercise, now I just park far away and walk a lot. It's a habit. I don't even have to think about it. And so in the pursuit of immediate gratification as it relates to weight loss rarely ever results in success. Set your sails for the slow, easy blowing wind, and you will definitely hit your destination if you follow the principles that we are talking about in this book.